Okay, this is going to be the first installment of cooking from vintage recipes, and the first one I'm going to try is actually a recipe that wasn't even posted on Vintage Recipes. It was posted by Miss Tia, who posts some wonderful things, actually on Vintage Ads, and this is I'm going to be making the Empress meatloaf with mushroom stuffing. So I've gathered all my ingredients together and going to follow along. So first of all, I need to drain the mushrooms, and it calls for a total of 6 ounces of mushrooms, which I couldn't find that exact amount, so I'm using an 8-ounce can of mushrooms, and it'll just have a little bit of extra mushroomness to it. I want to drain off the juice and save it for later. There we go. Juice is saved. And mushrooms into the skillet. Okay. Now I want to add my ½ cup of chopped onions. And that is going to be sauteed together, with 1 cup of butter. I'm cheating and using margarine, which doesn't make it any healthier probably, but it did make it cheaper. Alright. That's what it looks like right now. I am going to go and saute this up, and I'll be right back. It says to saute it until the onions are transparent, and you can't watch me do this because I don't have anybody to work the camera for me, and my stove isn't clean enough to appear on camera. So, right back as soon as I'm done with this. Okay, as you can see, not so much sauteing going on as there is boiling in butter. That's a lot of butter. But we'll move on. And our next step is to combine this mixture, which smells really, really good actually, with our soft, fresh breadcrumbs. Now, I wasn't quite sure how to come upon soft, fresh breadcrumbs, so I've got plain dry breadcrumbs from a can. Western family. Get rid of this. And we're going to want 4 cups of this. A little bit more. A little bit more. There we go. 2 cups. And oh dear, I'm a little bit short. I think we'll be okay. Another 2 cups. I also want to add our 1/4 cup of parsley. And where is it? It's the thyme. How much is the thyme? How much of the thyme? Powdered thyme. ½ teaspoon of powdered thyme. Okay. Mix this all up. And probably at some point I will be using my hands, which you don't see on TV very often, but I'm sure happens in everybody's kitchen. And if you're grossed out by it, well, I'm eating it and you're not. Alright, think probably that it would have worked better if the breadcrumbs, the parsley, and the thyme had been mixed up together before adding it to the butter and mushrooms and onions. So it'd be mixed up pretty good. And it's kind of crumbly, but I bet while it's baking it's going to absorb a lot of the moisture from the meatloaf itself. And the more I look at this, the more I don't understand how it's all going to fit in this pan. However, okay, we'll set this aside for now. Next up is mixing together the meat, and we want to start with 2 eggs. I need another spoon. Spoon, fork, whatever. I'm going to slightly beat the eggs. And we're also going to mix in the salt and pepper. And I'm going to mix all this before I add the meat. There's the salt. That was 1.5 teaspoons of salt. Here goes 1/8 of a teaspoon of pepper. The mushroom broth that we set aside. And 1/3 cup of ketchup. Oh dear. There we go. 1/4 cup of ketchup. And mix that all together. Lovely. And then I want to add my 2.5 pounds of ground chuck. Alright. Lightly mix it all together. There we go. Now we're going to pack half of this into the loaf pan. This is messy. There we go, loaf pan. And I'm beginning to think that I need a bigger loaf pan. Alright, that's about 1/2 half of it in there. Full, put in some stuffing. Pack stuffing on top. Alright, there's definitely enough here for 2 of these. Apparently, when this recipe came out, loaf pans were a lot bigger than this. Well, deeper at least. Okay, put some more meat on top. Alright, the meat mixture works out just about perfectly. But I'm left with a huge amount of stuffing. So I'm just going to sprinkle some on the top. There we go. Because I hate to see it all go to waste. Sure, if you're creative, you can come up with something else to do with it. Alright, I've had my oven preheating to 375 degrees. Oh boy, is this a mess. I just don't want to waste any of it. Okay. Make sure I got all the good stuff out of there. Yeah. Alright, this will go in the oven at 375 degrees for 1 hour and 15 minutes. And again, you don't get to see my oven. So I'm just going to put this in there and we'll come back when it's done. And there is the final product. I've taken it out of the oven about 15 minutes ago, and it has been sitting for 15 minutes. And one of the things it says is to drain the juices and turn out onto a serving platter. I'm not quite brave enough to do that myself, so I think I will just be cutting it in the pan and lifting a piece out. Okay, tonight I'm serving it with mashed potatoes and lima beans. And put it aside and let's see how well this cuts. Well, it cuts very easily. And let's see if I can manage to get a piece out. Ooh, hot. Okay, there's bits of it. Alright, as expected, it looks nothing like the box. And slide this back over into the camera. Yeah. There's stuffing in between. I think what I really need is a deeper pan so that all of the stuffing could have been put between the layers of meat. But I think that would have definitely made a difference. And let me grab a fork and we'll try it and see how it works. Okay, going for the first mouthful here. Wow. It's very, very moist and very, very salty. I think if you're making this for yourself, the 1.5 teaspoons of salt can easily be eliminated. Wow, is that salty. But it does taste good. So, maybe I can get my roommate to try it and give a his response as well later on. We'll see. Otherwise, give it a shot for yourself. Easy to make, turns out okay. Definitely cut back on the salt. And use a much deeper dish than the bread pan that I used to cook it in. Okay, that's our first recipe attempt, and we'll see you on Vintage Recipes.